Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And I want to pick up the contribution of Mary Goujon and look at it from the perspective of UK citizens who are living in the EU. They are not relying on specious promises coming from the Prime Minister or other members of the Westminster administration. They are applying in considerable numbers for passports from other countries in the EU to which they're available. Indeed, we've seen the rather unexpected sight of Ian Paisley Jr. Of the Democratic Unionist Party in Northern Ireland handing out Irish passport application forms to his constituents and to others. That precisely tells you how difficult the situation is perceived for many. I have members of my own family and close friends who fall into this category. I have a niece in Sweden. She is now a Swedish citizen and the holder of a Swedish passport, because she can't plan her life on vague promises that can't be banked. She has to assure her future. And incidentally, it's interesting to compare and contrast her experience of becoming a Swedish citizen with the burach that we heard described by Mary Goujon. It actually took her 5 days to get her Swedish citizenship. Now, she's been resident there for over a decade, I accept that, but 5 days I thought was a pretty impressive administrative deal. My nephew, who lives in Denmark, he has yet to submit his Danish passport application, but is actively contemplating doing so. And 4 close friends who have the appropriate Irish grandparents are looking to apply for Irish passports. All across Europe, we have uncertainty for UK citizens not reassured in any way, shape or form by what's coming for Westminster. So yes, it's an important point for EU citizens here, but it is equally a significant problem for UK citizens elsewhere. Now, I came to this Parliament sworn in on the 13th of June 2001. And the following day, I spoke in my first debate, which was on the European Committee of this Parliament's report on the Common Fisheries Policy. And so I was pitched right into debating on behalf of my constituents some of the very substantial shortcomings of many of the things that come from Europe. And indeed, the European Committee, as its first headline conclusion from its deliberations, said, we believe the current situation is untenable. They were talking about the Common Fisheries Policy. And I think in an environment where the EU was funding the building of new Spanish boats, while simultaneously ensuring that the Scottish fleet was substantially reduced, the bitterness that people in the northeast of Scotland and other fishing communities have towards the EU is a perfectly understandable one. But even there, things are changing, because it is clear that what was the expectation of fishing communities looks increasingly less likely to be delivered. Yesterday, we had the Scottish Fishermen's Federation advocating in the strongest possible terms that decision-making on fishing policy and practice must remain in Scotland. And of course, that takes us directly to section 11.1 of what might be termed the Great Repeal Bill, although Mr Tompkins has given us another title for it, which we might adopt if we wish. But the bottom line is that even the most Eurosceptic are realising the limitations of what is happening. Michael Gove appears to have promised continuing, quote, relative stability to the Danes and to the Dutch, absolutely at odds with what fishing communities expected. So the negotiations thus far are nothing short of a muddle. The EU, with 27 countries who had to agree a common line, were able to do so pretty rapidly. The UK Cabinet, with 23 members, has not been able, after a substantially longer period, to come to any meaningful agreement as to where we're going to go. So, let me give a few hints as to how negotiation might be done. One of the leading training companies in negotiation is actually based in Glasgow, and his services are used all over the place. They're a little company called Scotwork, and they have a simple system which is called LIMIT. 3 lists, things we would like to get, things we intend to get, and things we must get. And the way you do it is you sit down and you work out what's on your list. Now, you don't disclose your lists publicly. You close them bit by bit through the negotiation process. There is not the slightest sign that anything professional is happening in the negotiating world. Now, let me end, Presiding Officer, by welcoming the fact that the Tories, in their 7 paragraphs of their amendment, have provided 4 that I can actually agree with. And that's a welcome move forward. It's in everybody's interest that negotiations succeed. We want progress to be accelerated. We welcome the reconvening of the Joint Ministerial Committee. And fundamentally, we're looking to see the Great Repeal Bill amended, because until it is, no progress meaningfully will be possible. Presiding Officer.